Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste and a very warm welcome to our Weekend with Wisdom series. And thank you so much for joining the fourth session in this particular series. We have been discussing and reflecting on the text Vivekachoodamani. And we have with us Swami Anukoolananda ji from Chinmaya Mission, who has been guiding us through the sessions, through the text. Thank you so much, Swami ji, once again. So before we begin this final session in this series, let us chant an invocation. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Swami Anukoolananda ji was tutored in spirituality in Chinmaya Mission by reputed scholars of Vedanta. Swamiji was bestowed Brahmacharya Diksha on 15th August 2000 and Sannyasa Diksha on Shivratri in 2013. Taking keen interest in youth empowerment, Swamiji serves as the Director, South Zone, for the All India Chinmaya Yoga Kendra. Swamiji is now serving as the Resident Director at the Chinmaya International Residential School at Coimbatore, which has been adjudged the best residential school in Tamil Nadu and all over India for the year by the Education World magazine. Swamiji also serves extensively in the field of education training. Swamiji is a part of the board of the Chinmaya Education Cell that governs the running of its 103 Chinmaya educational institutions. Swamiji also serves on the board of management of the newly inaugurated Chinmaya Vishwavidyapith. Applying Vedanta to effectively enhance management practices, Swamiji has made many presentations in the areas of Indian ethos in management. Swamiji has been invited for lectures on Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and Indian solutions to personal and corporate challenges at many institutions. Swamiji's vision is to see India as a nation full of dynamic youngsters, empowered with the knowledge and practice of Indian culture, serving the nation and leading the world on a path to true freedom and eternal happiness. With that introduction, I invite Swamiji to take over the session. Over to you, Swamiji. Thank you.
Hari Om. We start with the invocation of my Guru, Swami Chinmayananji. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. We have with us Brahmachari Sanatan Chaitanya Ji, who is also in the Chinmaya International Residential School. He has kindly consented to chant the verses that we are showing. So right away, we start with the invocation verse of the Vivekachoodamani text that we have been chanting to Brahmachari Sanatan Ji.
Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham.
Next verse, we can keep that ready. So, in the 3 sessions that we have seen over yesterday and today morning, we have seen the introduction to Vivekachoodamani, the need of Atma Vichara, the understanding of what is Atma and what is Anatma, and in order to walk the path of understanding, we took up the Panchakosha Viveka. So the Panchakosha Viveka is to discriminate between the Anatma, which is the Panchakosha, and realize the Atma, which is beyond. So yesterday's class was about the Panchakosha Viveka. So having understood that I am not the Panchakoshas, the student asks, then who am I? What am I? This is the question which the student asks. So the teacher says, apart from the Panchakosha, there is the real you, which is the Atma. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. This is its nature. So we saw amazing shlokas from the Vivekachoodamani, which point out to us how we can realize the Atma. So all the verses indicate to us, all the verses become lakshanas, pointers to realize the Atma, to realize ourselves in the seat of meditation. So thus, having understood what the Atma is, now the Guru explains to the student that Atma is you. So these statements among the Vedas, which reveals the highest knowledge to the student. The highest knowledge is that you, the individual, are really Brahman, that which reveals the absolute identity. To us, that knowledge which removes the bondage that we have been suffering for Janma Janmantara. Such statements in the Upanishads are called Mahavakyas. So, we have different Mahavakyas in different Vedas. So, there are hundreds of Upanishads, and in each Upanishad, we have a Mahavakya. So, Upanishads are present in different Vedas, and different Upanishads, each of them have their own Mahavakyas. Yet, as representatives from each Veda, one Mahavakya has been taken as representative, as standards. So in the Rig Veda, from the Aitreya Upanishad, we have the great Mahavakya, Prajnanam Brahma. From the Yajurveda, in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, we have the Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi. From the Atharva Veda, in the Mandukya Upanishad, we have Ayam Atma Brahma. And this Mahavakya, which is Tattvamasi, is present in the Chandogya Upanishad. It comes in the Samaveda, and this is Tat Tvam Asi. So in the Chandogya Upanishad, the Guru and the Father, Uddalaka Aruni, he is teaching his student Shetaketu Aruneya this great knowledge, and he is indicating to his son, his student, this great knowledge by the Mahavakya Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. O Shvetaketu, that you are. So, when we study this Mahavakya, it is important for us to understand the meaning of this Mahavakya. Understanding has to happen not only grammatically. It should reveal to us the absolute truth. So therefore, very rigorous logic, also references from the Upanishadic teaching have to be established in order to arrive at the real meaning of this statement. Otherwise, such great Vedic statements can lead us to wrong knowledge. So therefore, great discussion is taken up in order to arrive at the right meaning. So let us read this verse before we go into the discussion.
Tvam padabhyam abhidhiyamanayoh brahmatmano shodhitayor yaditham shrutyatayor tattvamasiti samyak ekattvameva pratipadyate muhuhu.
So, through this Tattvamasi Mahavakya, Ekattvameva Pratipadyate Muhu. So it says that Muhu, again and again, the oneness of Tat and Tvam is revealed through this Mahavakya. How is the oneness revealed? Shrutya, as declared by the Vedic references. So, we have to apply Vedic references, Upanishadic references to this and find out what is its meaning. Also, Shodhitayoho. Shodhitayoho means by research, by inquiry, by applying logic in the way it has been taught to us. We apply logic, we apply the Shruti references, and then when we inquire again and again, Tattvamasi reveals the oneness of Tat and Tvam. So this Tat, Tvam, Padabhyam, Abhidhiyamana, what is referred to by Tattvam Tvam is Brahma and Atma. But how does the logic apply? How does the Upanishadic statements apply? That is being explained in the next consecutive verses. So let us see the next verse.
Aikyam tayorlakshitayornavachyayoh nigadyatenyonya viruddha dharminoh khadyota bhavor kadhyota bhanvor ivaraja bhrityoh upamburashaf paramanu mervoh.
So we all very clearly know that any statement has a literal meaning, and when the literal meaning does not seem to fit the context, then we take the implied meaning. For example, someone makes a statement in the crowd and he says, see, the lion comes now. So the statement is, the lion comes now. And when we look at the context, we can understand it is impossible that a lion will come in. So which means that the literal meaning is called Vachya Artha, literal meaning. The Vachya Artha does not apply in this particular case. So I need to go for an implied meaning. Implied means Lakshya or Lakshita, that is called implied. So one goes for the Lakshita Artha. So it is not that a lion is coming, but a person who has lion-like qualities. Probably a person who's very, very brave, or probably a person who's a leader of the group. He is coming. That is what is the meaning of the statement. Here comes the lion. In the same way, when we take the word Tat, Tvam, Asi, Tat means that, Tvam means you. And the literal meaning of that and you taken in the context, in the literal meaning, Tat means that means the total. Tvam means you, which means the individual. So, the total is the individual is the statement. But total and individual are contrary to each other. So therefore, the shloka says, Aikyam tayor lakshitayor navachayoho. The oneness here is by the implied meaning, not by the literal meaning. Why? Because the literal meaning is contrary to each other. So the individual is called the jiva. Total is jagat. The individual I have an individual body. I have an individual mind. And I have my individual causal body. Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Karana Sharira. But the total has the total gross body, the total mind, and the total cause. So, as the individual, I am called the individual personality. So, what happens is, as the individual, I am the Vishwa, the individual person. But total is called, total gross body is called Virat. So how can I, the individual, be the total? It is not possible. Just as Khadyota Bhanvor Iva. Just as Khadyota. Khadyota means glowworm. Bhanu means the sun. How can a glowworm and the sun be equated? Impossible. So, how can you say that sun is you, O glowworm? Not possible. Same way, Raja and Bhritya. Bhritya means the god, the servant. Raja means the king. So how can we say, O servant, the king is you? It is not possible because it is contrary. Same way, Kupa Amburashaha. Kupa means well, Amburasha means ocean. How can we say, oh well, the ocean is you? Seems very contrary. So too, Paramano Mirvoho. So too, how can we tell the atom? Oh, atom, the Meru mountain, the largest mountain, that Meru mountain is you. That is Tattvamasi. But we see here the contradiction. The mountain is big, the atom is small. Ocean is big, the well is small. Servant has no power, the king has all power. The sun illumines everything. The glowworm illumines almost nothing. So in terms of Sarvavyapi and Alpavyapi, the mountain and the ocean seems to be so large. But the well and the atom seems to be so small, Alpavyapi. The king seems to be all powerful, Sarvashaktiman. But the soldier has no power, Alpashaktiman. The sun seems to be knowing everything, Sarvajnaha. The glowworm illumines very little, Alpajna. So how can Sarvajna and Alpajna be the same? How can Sarvashaktiman and Alpashaktiman be the same? How can Sarvavyapi and Alpavyapi be the same? So too, how can that Ishvara and this Jiva be the same? It is not possible. So where we see the literal meaning cannot be applied in that particular situation, then we have to go for the implied meaning. So what is the implied meaning? How do we take the implied meaning? That we shall see in the next verse. Let's chant.
तयोर्विरोधोऽयमुपाधिकल्पितः न वास्तवः कश्चिदुपाधिरेषः ईशस्य माया महदादिकारणं जीवस्य कार्यं शृणु पञ्चकोशम्.
So the question is, how do we see the difference? What is it that is causing the difference? Tayor virodaha ayam upadhi kalpitaha. The difference of these two, Tat and Tvam, is not in its essence but in its descriptive adjuncts. For example, the light in the glowworm and the light in the sun are the same. But sun is big in size, the glowworm is small in size. The atom is small in size, Meru mountain is big in size. Otherwise, Meru mountain is also made of atoms. The well is small in size, the ocean is big in size, but both of them are collections of water. Well is also water, ocean is also water. So too, when we see one more example, the king and the servant. The king is all powerful, servant has no power, but both are people on whom power is invested to different degrees. So all of these which make them different are called upadhis. So too, I, the individual, when we take, how am I the individual? Because I have individual body. So the person who has the individual body, he is called Vishwa. And the total, who is God, the total body is called Virat. My individual mind identified, it is called Taijasa. Total mind, it is called Hiranyagarbha. The individual Vasana body, the causal body, I am called Prajna. The total cause of the entire universe, which is creating the entire universe, it is called Ishvara. So totality has total power, total knowledge, total expanse. I have individual power, individual knowledge, individual expanse. So these are what are added on to me. We studied in Panchakosha Viveka, when we try to understand who am I, we rejected the body, we rejected the subtle mind and intellect, we also rejected the causal Anandamaya Kosha also. So whatever was my add-on, that was rejected. So who am I other than this? So too, when we take the totality, totality also has the total Annamaya, the total gross body, which also is an add-on. The total mind is also an add-on. The total intellect is also an add-on. So what are these when we ask, what is the Annamaya? What is the Pranamaya? What is the Manomaya? All of them put together is called Jagat. And this entire Jagat in our analysis, we found it is nothing but Brahman and Brahman alone. So we saw that this Jagat is nothing but Brahman. Just as all the pots are nothing but clay, entire Jagat is nothing but Brahman. So it is in the superimpositions that we see the differences. So the superimposition on the individual is removed. The superimposition on the totality is also removed. Therefore, because they are superimpositions, they can be removed. So we see here, Tayor Virodha Ayam Upadhi Kalpitaha. Kalpitaha, imposed, imagined, superimposed. So because these superimpositions are imagined, they can be removed. Na vastavaha, in reality, they don't exist. So therefore, Ishasya Maya Mahadadi Karanam. So the total superimposition at the totality level is created by Maya. So that which creates in Brahman, the totality becomes Ishvara, totality becomes Vishwa, totality becomes Virat, totality becomes Hiranyagarbha. All of this happens because total superimposition. And in the individual, Ajnana becomes the cause for the superimposition, because of which we have the Panchakoshas. Neither the Panchakoshas at the individual level, nor the Mahat, the Hiranyagarbha, the Ishwaratva, even that is a superimposition. So therefore, or the superimposition can be removed. So that is what the next verse is going to speak about. Etau upadhi.
एतौ उपाधि परजीवयोस्तयोः सम्यङ् निरासेन परो न जीवः राज्यं नरेन्द्रस्य भटस्य खेटकः तयोरपोहेन भटो न राजा.
So let us see the third and the fourth line. Rajyam Narendrasya Bhatasya Ketakaha. The king is the king because he rules over the kingdom. Remove the authority of kingship from the king. Bhata, the servant, the guard, is identified as the guard only because he is holding the shield. Ketaka, remove the shield from the guard. Both of them removed of their superimpositions. Both of them are humans. That is all. And thus, both of them become equal. In the same way, Tayor Apohe. For the king to be a human being, he does not require to be a king. Kingship is superimposed on that individual. So too, being a god is superimposed on the individual. remove the superimpositions, both are tayor apohe na bhataha na raja. There is no god, there is no king. So too, etau upadhi parajivayoho. These superimpositions of totality and individuality. Totality on the para Ishvara, individuality on the jiva, individual. Samyang nirase. When they are removed, there is no total, there is no individual. But the question is, on what authority are you removing the superimpositions? Who gives you that authority? That authority is given to us by the Vedas. So therefore, Bhagavan Bhashyakara now is giving us the reference from the Vedas which sanction the removing of the superimposition. So let us see that verse now.
अथात आदेश इति श्रुति स्वयं निषेधति ब्रह्मणि कल्पितं द्वयं श्रुति प्रमाणानुगृहीत बोधात् तयोर् निरासः करणीय एव.
So it is said, tayor nirasah karaniya eva. One has to remove, to reject these two. Which two? The superimposition of the totality and the superimposition of the individuality. How? Shruti pramanad. By the authority of the Shruti. So the Shruti means the Vedas, and the Vedas gives us the authority. So what is the authority? It is said, atha adeshaha. So there is this statement, there is this instruction, adesha, starting with athata. So in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is a statement, athata adesha neti iti. So the statement says, the adesha is, this is not it. This is not it. So whatever is not I, whatever is not the Atma, that is the Anatma, has to be rejected, has to be removed, because it is a superimposition. Nishedhati Brahmani Kalpitam. It is Kalpitam, it is imagined, it is superimposed upon Brahman, and therefore they have to be Nisheda, they have to be rejected, they have to be removed. For example, in the kingship is a superimposition, and that has to be removed. On the mud, the pot is a superimposition, so the potness is to be removed. On the rope, the snake is a superimposition, so the snakeness has to be removed. On Brahman, the Panchakosha at the individual level is a superimposition. On the same Brahman, at the total level, Maya created totality is the superimposition. Prakriti is a superimposition. So that also has to be removed. So Jivatva is removed, Isharatva is removed. What remains in the place of the Jiva is Brahman. What remains in the place of totality is also Brahman. So therefore, Brahman alone remains. Just as the essence in the well is water, essence in the ocean is water. So when we take the essence, well and ocean are the same. When we take the essence, atom and Meru mountain are both atoms. So in essence, both are one. So too, in reality, the superimposition is removed. What happens is the reality, which is Brahman, expresses. So Bhagavan is telling us in the next verse, therefore reject and realize this absolute truth. So let's see that verse now. Nedam nedam.
नेदं नेदं कल्पिततत्त्वान्न सत्यं रज्जो दृष्टव्यालवत् स्वप्नवच्च इत्थं दृश्यं साधु युक्त्या व्यपोह्यं ज्ञेयः पश्चात् एकभावस्तयोर्यः.
So may that sadhu, may that person, sadhu yuktya, by good logic, saying superimposition is not real. So superimposition is to be rejected. Naidam kalpitatvat na satyam. Because superimposition is not real, the superimposition has to be removed. For example, the daughter of an actor is asked, who's your father? So the daughter identifies the father as not one of the roles which the father played in one of the movies. Whatever roles the father played, that daughter rejects because it is superimposed upon the father. She removes all the superimposed roles because that is not the truth. And removing all that, she identifies who her father is in reality. So too, Brahman appears as Ishvara. Brahman appears as the total world. Brahman appears as this individual body also. But in reality, these are all names and forms superimposed upon Brahman. Just as Rajjut Drishta Vyalavat. Just as upon Rajju. Rajju means rope. Vyala means snake. So the snake is superimposed upon the rope. So remove the snake, the rope, which is self-evident, becomes visible to us. Swapnavaccha, when I forget my reality of the waking state, I assume in the dream state, I assume for myself another alternate identity. But the moment I wake up from the dream, I recognize that my dream identity is false. And understanding this, I give up the dream identity, knowing that it is false, and I give myself the reality of the waking state. But in the absolute sense, neither the waker, nor the dreamer, nor the deep sleeper is the absolute reality. The absolute reality is that unconditioned Brahman. Itham drishyam, whatever is drishyam, seen. We saw that the seen is not the seer. And here we recognize Brahman alone to be the truth. Itam drishyam sadhu yuktya vyapohya, giving up the scene, Nyeyaha paschad ekabhava tayoyoho. Tayoyoho, of those two. Which two? Those two indicated by the words tat and tvam. which is individual and which is total and individual. Tat is total, Tvam is individual. See the essence of both to be the same. So it is one Brahman, and thus what happens is Tattvamasi becomes the actual statement that it implies that Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma. So you are Brahman becomes evident from the statement. So thus deriving that implication, let us see what it gives us. Next verse.
ततस्तु तौ लक्षणया सुलक्ष्यौ तयोरखण्डैकरसत्त्वसिद्धये नालं जहत्या न तथा जहत्या किन्तु भयार्थात्मिकयैव भाव्यम्.
So what we are doing here is when we take the indicated meaning properly, Sulakshyau, Tayoyoho Akhanda Ekarasatva Siddhaye. What happens is in both that one supreme consciousness becomes evident. In the individual also, it is Sat, Chit, Ananda, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. In the totality also, the essence is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. So, in both, there exists only one, which is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. So, therefore, this statement called Tat Tvam Asi becomes the reality, becomes the greatest Mahavakya for us to realize this absolute truth. So therefore, it is established. Giving the example of Devadatta, which is one very famous example in the Upanishads, in the Vedic lore, let us see what this example and how beautifully it tells us this particular application of this knowledge. Let's go to the next one.
सदेवदत्तोऽयमितिह चैकता विरुद्धधर्माशमपास्य कथ्यते यथा तथा तत्त्वमसीति वाक्ये विरुद्धधर्मानुभयत्र हित्वा.
So, they give us the example. What is the example? Sa Devadattaha Ayam. That Sa means that Devadatta is this Ayam. So, what happened was 10 years back, I met a person called Devadatta. 10 years later, I meet the same person once again. So now, over 10 years, things have changed. Maybe I am not able to recognize him properly. So someone comes to me and tells that Devadatta, whom you met in that place, is this Devadatta who is standing right in front of you. If I say, how can that Devadatta whom I met 10 years back in that place be the Devadatta whom I am meeting now in this place? Place is different, time is different. But what needs to be done? I need to reject the superimpositions. The superimpositions of time and space gives me the word that. The superimposition of time and space gives me the idea this. So that place, that time is rejected. This place and this time is also rejected. What remains is Devadatta and Devadatta. Both Devadattas are the same. Ekata. So therefore, what happens is Viruddha Dharma, contrary adjuncts which are superimposed, because Devadatta is not dependent on time and place. Wherever he is Devadatta. Whichever time it is, he is Devadatta. So whatever are the superimpositions, they are removed. And the Devadatta is recognized not as two people, but as one and the same. So too in Tattvamasi, Viruddha Dharman, Ubhayatra, Hitva, we are removing that Viruddha Dharmas. And having done that, what happens? We realize this Akhanda Bhava, concluding that Tattvamasi is the Mahavakya, which is teaching us this absolute truth. So concluding, coming to the final understanding of the statement, we have the next verse.
Salakshya chinmatrataya sadatmanoh akhanda bhava parichiyate budhaihi evam mahavakya shatena kathyate brahmatmanoreikyam akhanda bhavaha.
So thus, samlakshya, having understood the implied chinmatrataya, implied consciousness, having understood the Atma, which is being implied by the words this and by the word that. The Akhanda Bhava, the eternity, the unbroken existence, which is being indicated by the words Tat and Tvam, the Buddhai, they cull out from this particular statement. And in this way, like in Tattvamasi, in every Mahavakya, the masters discern the implied meaning and they realize that Brahmatmanoho Aikyam is what is being taught. So Brahman, so to say, is the totality. Atman, so to say, is the individuality. But individual and total are only superimpositions. Both are removed. Brahman is one, Ekameva, Advitiyam, Brahma, and that is you. So Tat, Tvam, Asi is not an equating statement. That is equal to this. No. In an equating statement, there are two entities. But Tattvamasi is the removal of dualities. So what exists is singularity. What exists is one and one alone. The individuality is removed and Brahman alone exists. So by the meditation, by the realization of Tattvamasi, what happens is the person understands themselves to be Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi becomes the understanding. So that person, through intense contemplation, through spiritual practices, by the Upadesha of the Guru, reflects, meditates, and drops the false identity, and the real nature of oneself shines forth. And that student realizes I am Brahman. Such a person is called a realized master. Such a person is called Siddha, one who has fulfilled the purpose of their life. Such a person is called a Mahatma. So the story began with a student tormented by life's limitations, seeking out a guru and learning from the guru. The student practices sadhana and realizes himself to be that absolute. So such a person is called a sage, such a person is called a saint. So how is the bondage of such a person? How is it removed? Further on, how does this person live? That is the topic we are going to discuss as the second part of today's session. And this is the final topic that we are going to discuss, which is the definition of a realized person and what happens to the karma of a realized person and what is the sign of a realized person. With this topic, which we will cover in the next half an hour or so, the Vivekachoodamani ends its discussions. So now let us begin the topic of the definition of a realized person. Sthita prajna.
Brahmatmano shodhitayoh ekabhavavagahini nirvikalpa cha chinmatraha vrittif prajneti kathyate susthita sa bhavet yasya sthita prajnasya uchyate.
So, realized master, saint, is called a Sthita Prajna. Sthita means one of steadiness. Sthita means steady. Prajna means understanding or realization. Sthita Prajna means firm abidance in the absolute knowledge, that is called Sthita Prajna or a saint. So who is a saint? Many times we have false narratives, false understanding of who is a realized person. Sometimes we imagine that somebody who can perform certain miracles is a realized person. We sometimes think somebody who looks like a madman is a realized person. Sometimes we think somebody who can read the future is a realized person. None of these statements qualify for being the realized person. So who is a realized person is explained by the Upanishads. So we have the word prajna and we have the word sthita. So prajna means knowledge. So what knowledge? Brahma atmano shodhitayoh ekabhavaha. That oneness, ekabhava of Brahman and Atman is direct experience of this particular person. So what happens is the vritti, the direct experience which this person has is of continuous, unbroken experience of the oneness of Brahman that they themselves are. And this Brahman, which is nirvikalpa, which is eternal, which is changeless. So it is not of one form or the other form. It is the direct experience of the eternal. It is chinmatraha. It is of the nature of consciousness. So, continuous, direct experience of the absolute, unbroken, eternal consciousness, that direct experience as one's own personal knowledge. That is called prajna. So it's a technical term. For example, in our delusory state today, we have continuous delusory experience that I am a human being. Every moment, every thought, every experience, my identity is of a human being. That identity is unbroken. That identity is avagahini, continuous. But in the same way, for the realized saint, the continuous direct experience is I am Brahman. So that is called prajna. And susthita sa bhavet yasya. Susthita, when there is firm abidance, continuous abidance in this understanding. When this understanding doesn't become a reminder when they read books, doesn't become a reminder when they sit in the seat of contemplation. Just as for us, it looks so natural that I am a human being, so too the abidance in this understanding and the direct experience that I am Brahman is absolute and direct for that person. So in their waking state, in their dream state, in their deep sleep state, in all states, their experience naturally is Aham Brahmasmi. For a person who has this continuous abidance, that is called Sthita Prajna. Such a person who has this is called Sthita Prajna. So what has happened for that person? All kinds of limitations from the superimpositions. That person does not anymore experience I am the body. So therefore that person goes beyond death. That person does not anymore experience I am the mind. The mind has sukha, dukkha, etc. So that person goes beyond and is affected by sukha, dukkha. That person stops identifying himself, herself as the intellect which is limited. That person goes beyond all limitations. That person goes beyond death. And that person goes beyond sorrow. That person goes beyond fear. So that person, having realized the truth, becomes the truth itself. Brahmavit, Brahmaiva Bhavati. The one who has realized the truth becomes the truth. The individual water drop which merges into the ocean loses its individual identity and becomes one with the ocean. Why? As the water, it is the same as the ocean. So too, we in reality are Brahman. And because of the false understanding, we have given ourselves a false identity as an individual. Drop the false identity and merge with the real understanding. I am Brahman, which is Ekam. And that absolute you are is the explanation. So therefore, such people who have realized this truth are called saints, Mahatmas. That is called Sthita Prajna. So bondage was there. And this bondage, does it go away? When does this bondage go away? That becomes the next topic of discussion. So the topic that we're going to discuss is about mukti, freedom from bondage. So let us see that now.
यस्य स्थिता भवेत् प्रज्ञा यस्यानन्दो निरन्तरः प्रपञ्चो विस्मृतप्रायः स जीवन्मुक्त इष्यते.
So therefore it is said, Yasya sthita bhavet prajna. For whom this prajna becomes steady, unbroken. It is not a thought, it is a direct experience. And the direct experience is of Brahman. The nature of Brahman is Ananda Swarupa. It itself is Anandamaya. So therefore, this person experiences Nirantara Ananda. Unbroken, continuous, unlimited bliss this person experiences. So such a person who has this direct, continuous experience of one's true identity and experiences that eternal bliss. And what happens is, prapanchaha vismrita prayaha. What happens is, this person mostly forgets the world. In the sense, the reality given to the world is forgotten. Such a person is called Jivan Muktaha. Ishyate means is called Jivan Mukta. So here, the word that Bhagavan Adishankaracharya ji uses is not just Mukta. Such a person becomes Jivan Mukta. Jivan means even as he is living. So mukti is not something which comes after death. Because if mukti came after death, who was there to tell us mukti is there? Because after death there is nobody to tell us that there is mukti. So therefore, mukti, Bhagavan Bhashyakara says, is Jivan Neva. Even as they are living, the moment realization happens, they become Mukta. So what is the sign? Amazing sign of the Jivan Mukta is described in many shlokas in Vivekachoodamani. Almost 10, 12 shlokas are dedicated to how the Jivan Mukta further lives in the world. So let us see that in the next verse as to how he transacts with the world.
लीनधीरपि जागर्ति जाग्रद्धर्मविवर्जितः बोधो निर्वासना यस्य स जीवन्मुक्त इष्यते.
So this person, Leenadhirapi Jagarti, his individual intellect, his identity as the individual has gone. The intellect and the individual identity is functional for us all the time, especially in the waking state. But for this person, what happens is that individual identity is gone and yet the person is awake. Jagrat dharma vivarjitaha. This person in the waking state does not act as the individual waker that he was before. For example, the person identified himself as Devadatta, the individual businessman who runs this particular company, who is the husband of this person. who is the father of this child. But all those identities of the individual get removed. This person identifies and realizes oneself to be that Brahman playing different roles. Till now, being the Devadatta was the reality. I am Brahman was not real. But now I am Brahman becomes real. I am the individual gets dissolved. That individual roles are played, but played from a different standpoint as a role, not as reality. So when I play a role, that role does not affect me anymore. For example, the actor acts many different roles. In one drama, the actor becomes a beggar. In another drama, the actor acts like a teacher. In another drama, the actor acts like a king. But the actor knows I am neither the king, I am neither the teacher, nor am I a beggar. I am me, myself. So too in this world, that Mahatma lives as I, the Atma. Bodho nirvasana yasya. For that person, experience is not prompted from the false understandings. False understandings creates its own effects of likes and dislikes. I am the body likes this, the body dislikes that. This was the thought earlier. And such likes and dislikes bound me to happiness and sorrow. Bound me to my limitations. But now I've realized I am not the body. So therefore, likes and dislikes do not govern my life. Likes and dislikes do not bring me joy nor sorrow. Whatever comes, I am happy. Whatever goes, I am happy. Nothing disturbs me. Bodho nirvasana yasya sa jivan muktaha ishyate. So this person who was in bondage earlier, baddha, this person, all the limiting adjuncts drop off. This person becomes truly free. So this person is called Jivan Muktaha. So how does this person? So the other verses beautifully explain the qualities of this person. I have not taken all those verses, but so beautifully it is explained. It is said, Shanta Samsara Kalanaha. This person has no more worldly disturbances. Why? This person has understood the unreality of the world. Yasya chittam vinishchintam. This person's mind has become free from all worries. And when things come into the mind of this particular person, nothing disturbs the mind of this person. Just as when rivers flow into the ocean does not become overwhelmed by that river. The river remains calm and full and steady as it is. Isn't it true that small events of the world disturb us? Very small events, they disturb us. But for the Sthita Prajna, nothing disturbs that person. So that person sees their body, dehe chayavad anuvartini. The body is seen as nothing more than an appearance. Body is seen only as a shadow. Maximum, the body is seen as a tool. That's all. The body is no more a reality to that person. So the condition of the body does not limit the person's will and wishes. It is said, Swami Chinmayananji, the founder of Chinmaya Mission, his heart used to work only 16%. And doctors advised him complete bed rest. But in spite of the doctor's advice, Swamiji used to teach for more than 3 hours every day, morning and evening, and hold so many meetings. Swamiji once said, if this body is not useful for my seva, let this body drop. I am not interested in this body. So nothing limits this Mahatma. Like that, this Mahatma has no worries of the past. Advaita ananusandanam bhavishyat avicharanam. This person is not disturbed by the anxieties of the future. And in the present, this person remains completely detached. Ishta anishta samprapte samadarshitvam. Whether preferable things or dislikable things comes in front of them, both are seen equal by that Mahatma. And what is this Mahatma experiencing all the time? The Mahatma is continuously experiencing the bliss of the Atma. Pujyamano, pidyamano, samabhavaha. Someone insults them, they don't get affected. Someone praises them, that also does not affect them, because they know both are only Maya. While everything, not just that they are Brahman and everybody is non-Brahman, no. The same Brahman which I am, that Brahman is you as well. So that Mahatma sees oneness in all. Samadarshitvam. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Shunichaiva Shopakecha Panditaha Samadarshinaha. It is said, in a dog eater, in everything, in a cow, in everything, the Mahatma sees that one. One God pervades everything. One God appears as everything else. That Samadarshana is the true sign of the great Mahatma. Sadekatva Vijnanat Mando Bhavati Vasana. All their false promptings earlier, all of them become absolutely silenced. They no more pressurize the Mahatma into temptations. The Mahatma has no more temptations. The Mahatma has no more false promptings. What the Mahatma prefers to do, the Mahatma does. Some Mahatmas withdraw, some Mahatmas work for the benefit of the world. Some Mahatmas immediately drop their body. Some Mahatmas continue to live until the body drops. So in so many different ways, the Mahatma lives in this world, blessing the world by their presence and fulfilling whatever is the Prarabdha that they have to fulfill. So now, in very, very short, we will take up the discussion on what happens to the karma of the saint. Let's take up the next verse.
Aham brahmeti vijnanat kalpakoti shatarjitam sanchitam vilayam yati prabodhat swapna karmavat.
So, karmas are of 3 types. When we say karma, it means the destiny that we have to experience is called karma here. Karma means action. in one sense of the term. But the action creates results of action. So that also is called karma only. So here we are discussing what happens to the results of actions performed by that saint in the past. The world is completely balanced. For every action, there has to be a result. So the Mahatma, over so many births, has performed karma. Now, the Mahatma has realized the truth. So what happens to the results of karma, which the Mahatma had performed earlier? They are all waiting to fructify, is it not? For a normal person, they will go from one birth to another birth to another birth, experiencing this karma. But what happens to the Mahatma? Let us understand this by an example. Let us say there is a prisoner who has been sentenced to 10 years of imprisonment. So that person goes into the jail and lives and suffers the imprisonment, the sentence of 10 years. But in the 6th year, that person passes away. So remaining 4 years, what happens? The karma was for the person. The person has died. So therefore the karma ends. So too, the karma in us is connected to the ego, the jiva, the individuality which performs the karma. So therefore, the experiencer of the result also has to be the ego, the jiva. In the realized saint, the jiva is dissolved. The ego is dissolved. So therefore, to whom can the karma come? Because that individual jiva is dissolved. Only Brahman is there, and Brahman was there always. So because that individuality is dissolved, all the karmas, all the results of action which they had earlier, kalpa, koti, shata, earned in a koti kalpa, 100 crore kalpas. All of them vilayam yati. All the sanchita karma that is collected, they all get dissolved. After that, there is no destiny, there is no future birth, there is no bondage for the saint becomes mukta. Now, the saint continues to live. So the past karmas which the saint did, the past karmas, the results of action dissolved. But we see that the saint performs actions now. So what happens to those karmas? What happens to the result of those karmas? Those karmas are called agami karma. Means actions performed by the saint after realization. So what happens to that karma? Let us see now.
स्वमसङ्गमुदासीनं परिज्ञाय नभो यथा न सृष्यति च यत्किञ्चित् कदाचित् भावि कर्मभिः.
So space, nabha it means space. When any action is performed in space, does space get affected? Space does not get affected. So too, Brahman does not get affected by any action which are performed. Na srishyati cha yat kinchit kadachit bhavi karma bihi. None of the future actions, results affect or get associated with the saint. So which means the results of all the good actions which the saint performs goes to the world. So thus it is said, the devotees of that Mahatma get the benefit of the wonderful actions performed by that Mahatma. But no results accrue to that particular person. So thus, future actions do not create new results for the saint. Past actions which had collected the results get dissolved. So now we have only the results of the present birth. And that is called Prarabdha karma. So what happens? What the Prarabdha karma? Let us see that now.
Jnanodayat purarabdham karma jnanat na nashyati adatva svaphalam lakshyam uddishyutsrishta bhavanat bhanavat.
So now we see in the world that the saint is living. And we see different things coming to the saint. Sometimes the saint is given awards, the saint is worshipped, the saint is praised. Sometimes the saint is seen to get diseases also. So how do these things manifest in the saint? So therefore, in order to explain these happenings to the saint, we have to give some reason. Because without reason, something cannot happen. So because we see something happening, we assume that it is because of the Prarabdha which has already manifested. Because Prarabdha is all the results which has manifested to make this particular lifetime. So in this lifetime, this body has a destiny to complete. So therefore, until this body completes its destiny, this body continues. So too, even for the Mahatma, even after realization, jnanat purvam, this, even by realization, this prarabdham does not end. For whom prarabdham, for the bodies, do not end. So what happens? Prarabdham ends only after it gives its results. Sometimes good results, sometimes bad results. For example, the arrow which has been left from the bow, that arrow has to reach the target and only then it will finish. It will finish its movement. So too the Prarabdha karma which has already manifested has to manifest and only then it will end. Let us say the hunter released the arrow thinking that it is a tiger. After releasing the arrow, the hunter suddenly understands it's not a tiger, it's a deer. Just because the understanding changed, can the arrow be stopped? Not possible. So too, the Prarabdha karma has already manifested. And therefore, it has to complete its course and only then it has to die out. So until the Prarabdha karma ends, that body remains. But let us remember that the Mahatma has no identity with this body. I am the body is not there, so therefore the Prarabdha of the body does not affect the Mahatma. Whether fever or whether cancer, whether praise or whether awards, nothing affects the Mahatma. The Mahatma lives in his supreme identity as Brahman. Yet, what is important is to understand that the Mahatma is never bound. Jivaneva muktihi. Jivan muktihi is what happens. The moment realization has happened, that Mahatma is free. So to explain that, the futility of the discussion itself is taken up by Bhagavan Adishankaracharya in the next verse.
शरीरस्यापि प्रारब्ध कल्पना भ्रान्तिरेव हि अध्यस्तस्य कुतः सत्त्वम् असत्यस्य कुतो जनिः अजातस्य कुतो नाशः प्रारब्धम् असतः कुतः.
So therefore, understand this important point. What is the important point? Important point is that which is not factual need not even be considered. Only factual things need explanation. What is imagined need not deserve our explanation also. Think about this. This body sense itself is superimposed. What exists is Brahman and Brahman alone. So therefore, body itself is a superimposition. Body itself is an imagined reality. Bhrantireva hi. So the Prarabdha for the body. Body itself is superimposed. So imagine the Prarabdha of the body, it is a greater superimposition. Body itself is imagined, so the Prarabdha of the body is more imagined. So for that which is imagined, where is reality? There is no reality. So the body is not real. So that which is not real, where was the body born? So there is no birth also for the body. So that which has no birth, kuto nashaha, where is destruction or death of the body? That also is not there. So prarabdham asata kutaha, where is destiny? Where is prarabdha karma for the body? The entire pack is only false. So therefore, even to take up this discussion is baseless, because the base itself is an imagination, is a superimposition. It is not reality. Yet the discussion is taken up. Why is the discussion taken up? That Bhagavan explains as the concluding verse of this section. Let's read that.
ज्ञानेन ज्ञानकार्यस्य समूलस्य लयो यदि तिष्ठत्ययं कथं देहः इति शङ्कावतो जडान् समाधातुं बाह्यदृष्ट्या प्रारब्धं वदति श्रुतिः.
So the Vedas explain Prarabdha only bahya drishtya, only from a superficial standpoint, not in reality. From a superficial stand, it talks of Prarabdha as an explanation. and talks about Prarabdha as an explanation for whom? For Shankavato Jadan. For the dull-witted people who have this doubt. And this doubt is not ending in them, and they're not able to see the higher. So in order to quieten this doubt in the dull-witted people, who are the dull-witted people? We who have not realized the truth. And because we see ourselves as the body, we also evaluate the Mahatma as the body. And we see changes in the body, so we question, how can the Mahatma have it? In reality, the Mahatma is not the body. In reality, the body itself is not real. So therefore, where is the question of this kind of discussion? Yet, because the question rises in us, the dull-witted people, the Shastras give an explanation. And the explanation for that is Prarabdha. That is all. That is the role of Prarabdha for the saint. So in reality, the saint has no Prarabdha, which means in reality, all karmas end for that Mahatma. So which means the moment of realization. The moment the Mahatma has realized that absolute, the Mahatma's karmas are ended, the Mahatma becomes free completely. So then, how does that Mahatma live in this world? That is explained in the beautiful verse. There are almost 50-60 verses in the Vivekachoodamani which praises the living of that Mahatma. But for want of time, we are taking only one particular verse. So we end this session with this verse. So let's read this verse.
चिन्ताशून्यमदैन्यभैक्षमशनं पानं सरिद्वारिषु स्वातन्त्र्येण निरङ्कुशा स्थितिरभीः निद्राश्मशाने वने वस्त्रं क्षालनशोषणादिरहितं दिग्वास्तु शय्यामही संचारो निगमान्तवीथिषु विदां क्रीडा परे ब्रह्मणि.
So this Mahatma lives completely free. Chinta shunyam. This Mahatma has no worries. Where will I get food? Why? I am not the body. So where does food matter to me? Doesn't matter. Prestige or insult is for the intellect. So insult or praise is not for me. The Mahatma is unaffected by it. So the Mahatma lives by Bhiksha. Food. Ashanam. Eating is by Bhiksha. Bhiksha is not chosen. Bhiksha is what comes. So whatever comes, the Mahatma eats. Panam saridvarishu. Drinking water from the rivers. The Mahatma has no worries. Wherever water is available, Mahatma will drink. And who can stop the Mahatma from drinking from the rivers? Nobody can stop. It is available to all. The Mahatma does not compete with the world for drinking water, for eating food. No competition. Swatantrena nirankusha stitihi. That Mahatma lives swatantrena. No one can specify rules to this Mahatma. You have to serve me. No. It is the Mahatma's wish. In the Mahatma's infinite vision, if the work has to be done, then the Mahatma will do. If this work should not be done, the Mahatma will stop it. The Mahatma has no fear. Abhihi. Why? There is no destruction, so where is fear? There is no death for me, so then where is fear? Nobody can destroy the person. So therefore there is no fear. And where does the Mahatma sleep? Nidra, smashane, vani. Wherever Mahatma feels sleepy, the Mahatma will sleep. Smashana means crematorium. Or vana means forest. The Mahatma has no fear of ghosts. Mahatma has no fear of animals. Why? In everything the Mahatma sees Atma only. The same Atma which the Mahatma is. So therefore there are no enemies, there are no friends, there is only one. Vastram Shalana Soshanadirahitam. So the Mahatma does not worry about even the dress that they wear. Why? Body itself is not real. So what to use, cloth the body is not their priority. So whatever is the vastra, the Mahatma will wear it. It does not matter to the Mahatma. Sometimes the dress the Mahatma wears is just space, which means sometimes the Mahatma will not even wear a dress. Digva, sometimes the dress is just space. Sometimes the dress could be bark of a tree. Sometimes the dress could be stitched from fallen clothes, discarded clothes by others. As is available, the Mahatma will wear it. Shaya Mahi. What is the Mahatma's bed? This entire earth is available for the Mahatma to sleep. So like that, the externalities no more matter to the Mahatma. So the Mahatma will not choose simplicity, nor will the Mahatma choose extravagance. Whatever comes by Prarabdha. Sometimes it can be extravagance, sometimes it can be poverty. The Mahatma is equally comfortable in both, because both do not matter to the Mahatma. Sancharo Nigamanta Vitishu. So where does the Mahatma move about? The Mahatma moves about in the streets. Vidhi. Moves about in the streets of Nigamanta. Nigama means the Vedas, Anta, end, the Vedanta, this great knowledge. So the Mahatma goes about enjoying the bliss of this great experience which has been described in the Vedas, which has become their own experience. Krida Pare Brahmani. There's a spelling mistake there. It's Krida, sporting. So they revel. They revel in what? They revel in that Supreme Brahman. That Supreme Brahman reflected as the world, they revel in the world also. They revel in the presence, which is Brahman. They revel in the absence, which is also Brahman. So every moment, Nandati, Nandati, Nandatyeva. So like this, from being a Baddha, by being bound, that person went to the Guru, learned this great knowledge, practiced the sadhana, practiced Viveka, understood the reality, went into Nididhyasana, contemplation, meditation, and realized themselves as, he realized himself as that absolute. And that Mahatma continues to live in the world blessing the world with their presence. Sometimes teaching, sometimes giving refuge, sometimes removing problems. Whatever the Mahatma chooses, the Mahatma does, and thus this is the end of the journey. Vivekachoodamani so beautifully presented, gifted to us as a blessing by Bhagavan Adishankaracharya ji, ends with this great praise of that great Mahatma, inspiring us to walk the path from bondage to liberation. So thus we conclude the glimpses from the great text called Vivekachoodamani by Bhagavan Adishankaracharya ji. Thank you very much to Indika Moksha and everyone here who have made this sharing of this knowledge possible. Thank you to Hari Vittal who has been organizing this. And my thanks to Brahmachari Sanatan Chaitanya ji and to Smarat Sri Ram who have made these PowerPoint presentations and who have chanted these shlokas. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. And it was such a very insightful and refreshing experience to go through the Vivekachoodamani. And I'm pretty sure it is the same with the seekers who have attended all the talks over the 2 days. So with that, I would request the seekers to please post your questions in the Q&A box. And as they come, I shall relay them to Swamiji. Swamiji, as they come, I would like to ask you, there is a misconception that if someone is a Mahatma, they need to be in a certain way, like a renunciate or withdrawn completely, which they are, as you mentioned, anyways, it doesn't matter. They are in reveling and all the time reveling in their self. But there are times when they also are having abundance around them. So how does one understand, like relate to that? How do we bridge these so-called binaries while I feel it is not necessarily so? What are your thoughts?
First of all, to judge a Mahatma, we have to be greater than the Mahatma. Because to judge somebody, we have to be greater in order to judge and evaluate.
Yeah.
So if you want to judge a Mahatma, first become a Mahatma. This is the very, very, very important point. Second is, it is important that we use our intellect and understand. So, as Bharatiyas, we've been taught to seek and experience and realize by ourselves. Not just to go by somebody's report of their own experience of something. If you want to know something, you go and find out. And most importantly, you should find out by yourself before believing or not believing. So our intellect has the facility to understand. So first thing we have to understand is to know who a real Mahatma is in terms of the Shastras. First point. For example, if I go to a store and if I have to buy a product, I should know that that product is a good product or not. And if I buy a bad product, it is my mistake. It is not the mistake of the shopkeeper. I should know what is quality and what is not quality. So which means I should study about the product. So without understanding what a Mahatma is, how can I evaluate somebody? It is not possible. But having studied the Lakshana of a Mahatma, I can evaluate to some extent. So it is said there is Acharya. Acharya, you can see the behavior of that particular person. Constantly one has to notice. Over time, in association, we can evaluate. How is the vichara of that person? Does that reflect insecurity? Does that reflect selfishness? Does that reflect some kind of an agenda? If it reflects limitedness in thought, limitedness in attitude and in action, we can conclude. But in that Mahatma, we see selflessness. We see great knowledge expressing through them every moment. So we understand that Mahatma is gone beyond that individuality. So that person is a Mahatma. So there is Acharya, then there is Vichara, then there is Prachara. What does the Mahatma teach and instruct others? Does that Mahatma teach that individual to become worldly, or does that Mahatma teach that individual to become divine? So Samartha Ramdas ji says, if you find for 1 rupee even 3 gurus who teaches you to become worldly, reject them even though they are very cheap to get. So the Mahatma is one who will lead us to that highest path. So look at their achara, look at their vichara, look at their prachara. Not the clothes that they wear. Because some would wander naked, some would wear elaborate clothes. Not the place that they stay. Some may live in palatial, for example, sage Vasishta was associated with the kings he was associated with. And there may be saints who don't even live in an ashrama, who may live in the forest, who may live in the streets also. For the saint, it does not matter. So we have to look at the saint and understand them, not look at the paraphernalia around and get deluded.
Exactly.
Because in that delusion, we will lose the opportunity to learn from the true Mahatma. So that should not be done. And yet it is important to evaluate so that we come to the right understanding and conviction that I can learn from this Mahatma. So that is what it is.
Thank you, Swami. It's very interesting. Like through the intellect, we need to apply the buddhi and understand the Mahatma. At the same time, if the buddhi is closed and projecting some judgments, and then again it can be an enemy at the same time. So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. So do not make uninformed assumptions. Be it with any product of the world, be it with any relationship with the world, or be it in the state of a Mahatma.
Absolutely.
Even in relationships, if we make false judgments, we are going to be in error and we are going to suffer. So therefore, we are being blessed with all of these. So we should use them wisely. That is the idea.
Thank you, Swamiji. One of the seekers is asking, Jiva is Jiva not Atma? So is Jiva intellect only? So yeah, this is the question.
Fine. So the question here is, what is the Jiva? So Jiva, in essence, there is only one, Brahman. So in essence, the entire Jagat, including the Jiva, is Brahman only. But that Brahman, because of false identity, is assumed to be an individual. Like the actor takes on the role of the beggar. Let us say the actor forgot his real identity and the actor assumed the identity of being a beggar as the real identity. So then, assuming the false identity that I am the beggar, thinking that that is my real identity, I start behaving like a beggar. I don't go back to my house, which is palatial, which I built as an actor, Rather, I stand outside that same house and I beg for food or money from that house, which I only built. So too, you, the Brahman, having forgotten your real identity, have become the individual limited Jiva identity. Identity is not real. Realize the absolute. So the Jiva in essence is the Atma, but in our today's experience, we have forgotten. So it is a false identity that we have given to ourselves. So the Jiva is intellectual only. I think the idea that you're trying to say is imagined only. Yes, it is an imagined identity. That's correct.
Wonderful. Thank you, Swamiji. There aren't any more questions.
Wow.
And I would like to take an opportunity to extend our gratitude on behalf of Indica Moksha to Swamiji for accepting our invitation and doing this talk for all the viewers and in our platform. Thank you so much, Swamiji. And we really wish to have you on our platform once again in the future sometime, whenever it is convenient for all of us. Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you. And once again, thanks to Brahmachari, Sanatan and to Smarab Sriram for organizing the chanting of all these verses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Swamiji. Shall we conclude with the prayer?
Yes, please.
Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om